people ask me all the time, like, well, what happens, right? Like, I have this phone number, what happens next? So, and the answer is it's 24/7, right? You have somebody who's going to be in touch with you right away. A lot of the times, and most of the carriers that are out there have that 24/7 hotline that goes directly to somebody to start the process immediately. Usually what happens, like within minutes, right? You get number one, conflicts checks are run right away on the organization itself. And then you get on the phone with either, carrier and breach coach, right away. Especially, based on your availability, right? I mean, usually when these kind of incidences occur, whether it be ransomware, business email compromise, wire transfer fraud, they're all very important, right? So, and they're all something that deserves, the attention right away. So what are we talking about in terms of the players themselves, in terms of getting this process started, right? So like I had said, we get that conflict check run, you get on the phone with the breach coaches, and then we have what's called a scoping call, right? Where we talk about some of the questions that Bill was talking about. What's the status of your system? Basically, what's going on within your system? And at the end of that call, you'll receive an engagement letter from myself. And typically the forensics vendor, they have a statement of work, which is a breakdown of the services that they provide and the costs associated with it. It's submitted over initially to the breach coach and then over to the insurance company and to the insured for their review and approval. And I'm sure Margaux could speak to this probably better than anyone, but there's a reason why there are certain vendors that are pre-approved. They have pre-negotiated rates when these kind of instances occur. So then, you're getting in touch with the right people right away. But in addition to that, we're not just talking about breach coaches, forensics. Well, what about in the event that you do need a PR company? Those are companies that are previously vetted, have pre-negotiated rates with your insurance company. What if they did take all of the data, as Bill was talking about earlier, even if it's not just ransomware, a business email compromise, and you find out that they did an entire sync of your email box, and you have to take a look to see what kind of sensitive information is within the email box. And what these data mining companies do is that they'll take the data itself and they'll run what's called a keyword search through it, which is, based on all 50 states, the personal identifiable information and health information. They'll take a look at those keywords, then they'll do what's called a manual review of those documents, and they'll provide an output, which is usually an Excel spreadsheet that says, first name, last name, address to the extent that it's available, and the personal identifiable information that would, that was accessed or exfiltrated by these threat actors, right? And then from there, the breach coaches, what they do is that they'll take a look and they'll analyze based under state, federal, contractual obligations that you may have, and provide you a breakdown of, who do we need to notify? Do we have to notify not only just individuals, attorney generals, consumer reporting agencies? Sometimes, again, if you're a regulated entity, do you have to notify the Office of Civil Rights within a certain time frame? Each state does something a little bit different, right? Do you have to notify the SEC? Do you have to file a SAR, suspicious activity report? Do you have to notify you have to notify the educational Department of Education? Everybody has different obligations, and that somebody, you want to have an expert in your corner who's going to tell you what you need to notify, when you need to notify too, because a lot of these states that are out there have very tight reporting requirements. Like, for instance, if you're regulated by the insurance industry and you have to do reporting to the insurance industry, sometimes it's 2 days. I was talking about the financial industry in one of the other segments. 72 hours, right? So you want to be, cognizant of those deadlines and be able to hit the ground running right away. But they have all these vendors in order to help you. And then what about credit monitoring, right? There's different states that are out there that require credit monitoring. Sometimes it's 12 months, sometimes it's 18 months, sometimes in Connecticut, it's 24 months in the event of Social Security numbers at issue. They have vendors that are out there that would provide those services, and that would be coordinated through the breach coach for, credit monitoring, mailing, and also a call center for those kind of situations where you do have to do those notifications. But being able to call your broker and your, insurance carrier right away, is critical. And I'm sure, as Margaux could probably talk about, have an impact on potentially on your coverage as well.
I think something that's so important to think about is, while this is going on, no matter how often you practice for it, there's still going to be some element of chaos and high emotion. So really having these expert vendors that come in that have handled this over and over again to hold your hand in a sense and remind you that it will all be okay and that they know what they're doing, so that you as an organization just need to focus on getting yourself operational, and they will help you with everything in the response.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I know Bill and I talk a lot about is, some people ask the questions like, Bill, how many times, if I make payment, will I get re-extorted? How many times do, why me as an organization? I'm a small business. Why me? Bill, why me? Why would they come after me as a small or medium-sized business? And the answer is it's monetary gain. They don't care. A lot of the companies do the research, right, Bill?
Yeah. Again, you're more the victim of opportunity more than anything. Again, when we talk about preventative maintenance, let's just say you're running a certain type of application and you've got to do the patch management. Let's just say you're running Exchange on-prem and you've got to do the patch.
Absolutely. And when it comes to these kind of situations too, when we talk about ransomware is actually, and Bill had alluded to this earlier, you look at it as kind of a three-pronged approach. Number one, getting back up and running in a safe and efficient manner. Number two, you want to try to figure out how this all happened, right? A lot of the times, Bill, we could talk about, the three common factors, right? Email phishing, remote desktop protocols, and all these kind of situations that are, the common key factors that, all of that, that kind of leaves ourselves open to victimization. But then the other piece is what data was taken, right? And then as you're taking a look as to see what data is taken, we would never recommend, making any sort of payment to anyone, right? But there are a number of organizations that kind of that are in a spot that you don't have another choice. Backups, one of the first things that threat actors do is they attack the backups because they want to leave you in the most vulnerable situation. So, sometimes you might not have a choice but to get a decryptor tool. Or I know, as Bill talked about earlier, you take a look at the data that may have been taken, and sometimes you don't know what data has been taken, and you take a look at it from a situation and you say, look, I really want to try to make this payment because, given the fact of the data itself, but these guys are criminals, right? We don't know what they're going to be doing with the data as a result. We don't know what's going to happen as a result, right? So again, it's all a risk. Or even the third part, which is when we talked about in one of the earlier segments, is business interruption laws. From a business perspective, if you're down for 4 days, what is the business loss associated with that? And that all comes into play as to when you're making a decision of, when it comes to payment of ransomware in a ransomware situation.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the content, you can click through to the next video right here. Also, if you'd like to stay up to date on more videos like this, like, subscribe, and follow.